Well, we finally have citizens from Springfield, but I didn't realize they'd be so small. Here's a look at the brand new Jakks Pacific, The Simpsons 2.5-inch figures. The Simpsons, first debuted in 1989, has remained an innovative pop culture staple recognizable worldwide. Bring home officially licensed toys from Jakks Pacific inspired by the groundbreaking show's iconic characters and moments. We are finally getting together, you and me, and we're getting a look at the brand new Jakks Pacific Simpsons lineup. Unlike companies that have done this in the past, Jakks is actually approaching the licensing a little bit different as they are releasing two distinct size classes. The 2.5-inch, which are the slightly smaller figures, those are going to be the ones I think they're going to be marketing more to the idea of having the dioramas. So we've already seen images online of the Simpsons family house that doubles as well as the living room. And we've already seen pictures of Homer sitting inside the living room. This is also, I'm sure, something that they're going to be, if down the road they release vehicles, this would be the size class that they're going to be doing. They don't have as much posability as the 5-inch scale figures, the other size class that they're doing, and they don't have as much of the accessories, as you'll see in a second. These are pretty hard to as well find here in Canada. A dry spell it's been. I checked the local Walmarts, which as far as I know is the best place for a Canadian collector to try to find Jakks Pacific Simpsons figures, and nowhere have they stocked these on shelves. Funny though enough is if you go to walmart.ca and you type in Jakks Simpsons, you won't find anything other than third-party listings, which is a side tangent I'm not going to waste your time talking about. I have a real issue with the fact that walmart.ca is allowing third-party sellers to sell stuff on their site. I think that's a conflict of interest. Funny though enough though, if you go on google.ca and you type in Jakks Simpsons and then you go to the shopping option, wouldn't you know it, Walmart.ca does have listings there, and if you click the listings, it takes you right to their site. And yet, if you type it on their site, you won't find it at all. Either way, though, of all the places I found these, I actually got them from a Facebook selling group. And the person I bought these actually from, truth be told, this isn't the entire first wave. I'm missing Ned Flanders, and I don't have a Lisa Simpson. There is also, as well, I've seen images online of a variation of Bart with one eye closed and holding a slingshot. I think he's part of this first wave as well. But I bought these at $10 a piece, which I guess isn't that much more. Walmart.ca was listing them as $7.97. I've seen crazy sellers scooping these things up wherever they've been able to find them and then turning around and charging them for $12 to $15 a piece. That's ludicrous. But either way, like I said, we're going to be looking at least at 3 of the 5 figures, and promise down the road we're going to be looking at the Ned Flanders and Lisa, and maybe I'll pick up that other Bart as well. With that all being said, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall each one of these stand. Now, they're 2.5 inches in size. The one that's the closest in that size is actually Homer Simpson. He is, in fact, 2.5 inches exactly. That translates to a figure that's 7 centimeters tall. Ow, 2 minutes and we haven't even looked at these figures yet. As for size comparisons, easily I could have brought in something from Playmates or Super 7. The problem with either one of those are 6 to 7 inch scale figures. So right away, it's going to dwarf whatever we're getting here from Jakks. I wanted to do the opposite though. I wanted to find a figure that was smaller than these and just to show you how much taller they actually are. Well, a perfect line popped into my head. I realized that Lego in fact did do Simpsons mini figures. I do happen to have myself a Homer. If I don't drop him, I also have myself a Bart. It would have been perfect if I had a Chief Wiggum. I don't have a Chief Wiggum. But at least from a size standpoint, obviously Jacks's are taller, but they're only taller by about a head. I mean, if you're looking at a minifigure, and we all know what a size a minifigure would be, it only goes to about the shoulders of Homer. Homer's, well, about a head taller. The same can be said for Bart as well. So while the 2.5 inch scale figures will be perfect for the dioramas that Jakks Pacific are planning to release, and I hope they're going to be planning to do more than just the Simpsons house, the thing unfortunately about this line so far is that I've noticed that they have next to nothing in the way of accessories. Even, in fact, the first wave, the only characters that actually have something that come with them are the 2 Simpsons kids. Bart comes included with a skateboard, as you see right now. Lisa's going to come included with her saxophone. But all the rest of the characters come included with nothing. Bart's going to, of course, as mentioned, come included with a skateboard. The thing I like at least about the skateboard is while it's all molded here in red plastic, clearly have only just striped the green on either side of it, they at least took the time to give it functioning wheels. I use the term functioning wheels loosely. While they do roll, once you get Bart really on top of the skateboard, they have a hard time actually moving. You could take the skateboard for all intents and purposes. Bart does have, and I use this term, again, very loosely. He does have a gripping hand on one side that if you're lucky enough, you can get him to hold the skateboard. I've done this a few times, but I think the times that I've done it have now warped the hand. If I just maybe kind of bring the thumb a little bit closer to the palm. If you get the hand close enough, sometimes, just sometimes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Sometimes you get him to hold the skateboard. I think I've probably warped the hand too much for that to happen now. I don't think he's ever really intended to hold the skateboard. Instead, if you look at the bottom of his feet, they look like eyeballs. You can actually take the holes and line it up to one of the pegs. You just attach Bart onto the skateboard like that. And, you know, again, he rolls okay. I mean, he doesn't roll the greatest, but at least it does roll. It does throw off a little bit of his balancing issues as well. So, you know, when you have Bart on top of his skateboard like that, from time to time, the figure does take a tumble. Funny though enough that we were just talking about Simpsons minifigures. If you happen to have a couple of minifigure accessories, I grabbed a couple from the Simpsons minifigures. So we've got the inanimate carbon-based rod, and we also got ourselves an axe. I think this came included with, it was either Itchy or Scratchy. Not that I can really remember. Bart's never going to be able to hold these, but if you take yourself Homer, for example, Homer has just the right grip. If you get yourself the carbon-based rod and fit it into his hand, wouldn't you know it, it seems to be about the same size as the Jakks Pacific 2.5-inch scale figures. If you also are a big fan of the Shinin, I love the Shinin, you can also take the axe and you can make crazy Homer. Obviously, he's not as crazy in the face, but they could have the means to hold minifigure accessories if you want to. Is something I noticed. While we have Homer really in our hands, let's talk a little bit about the figure. He has more articulation, first of all, than I was already expecting. I figured, if anything, getting this guy out of the packaging, he would only have just a straight head swivel on the arms, and maybe, if anything, swivel back and forth the legs. The only thing that's unfortunate about the figure is that, first of all, he doesn't have any waist swivel, so you can't rotate them. And when you take the one leg and you bend it, you're basically going to be bending both at the same time. So Homer basically bends. There's a joint that's probably a peg that goes straight through that attaches the lower half of his body to the top half of his body. So when you bend one leg, you're bending both. And eventually, I'm sure, if Jakks down the road plans to release a car, like the Simpsons family car, this would be the size that they're going to be working it with. They're not going to be doing that for, like, the 5-inch scale figures. So, like, this is, again, like, this is the line if you really want, like, all the Simpsons characters from the world of Springfield. And, again, like, all, not necessarily interactive scenes like they did with Playmates, but if they are going to be releasing, like, say, scene specifics, like Moe's Tavern, for example, or, like, the Springfield Elementary, if they have things like that, it's going to cater to this size class. Getting a closer look, though, at Homer, I will say right away, I was really going in with low expectations. I figured, if anything, the 5-inch scale was more to my liking. That the 2.5 scale, I was just kind of thinking, like, if you kind of close your eyes and you think 2.5 inches, how much detail are they really going to pack in that? I was thinking right away, like dollar store. Sometimes you see like little dollar store figurines, and the likeness looked nothing at all like the character. I was kind of expecting to go in and thinking that with the Simpsons, and pleasantly surprised to see that Homer and, in fact, the other two characters look quite a lot like him. I mean, if you were to say, if I was to hold this up to the camera, you probably, without knowing the size class of these, would have expected this to be maybe something from Super 7. Super 7 did a great job. On The Simpsons, they dropped the ball, certainly when it came to picking their characters. But I would think, like, I would even say, like, this rivals the stuff we were getting from Super 7, just on, obviously, a much smaller scale. Now, Homer, unfortunately, like I said, doesn't come included with any accessories. Could they have not just thrown a bone? Oh, right, maybe a bone would have gone to Santa's little helper. Could they not have thrown a donut, a box of donuts? I don't know, even like the carbon-based rod, even just a lunch pail, something that the character could have come included with. The fact that Bart, and maybe has something to do with the fact that he's also the smaller of the three characters, maybe might be the only reason why that he got himself a skateboard, and Chief Wiggum and Homer got squat. Head, for what it is nicely painted. The pupils on the front of his eyes, not to mention the little zigzag that he has at the back of his hair. Also, too, this is sculpted in, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't just printed in place. They also, as well, obviously sculpted the top. Homer never really has the proper loops that he would have, because, I mean, that as a plastic, that would be something that would be very easy to bend. But they did the next best thing. Obviously, they printed that on the top. The head, like, the coloring for the yellow looks really good on Homer. And again, like, when you're looking at the articulation on all these guys, yes, it's a straight swivel. I mean, you're going to be getting a lot more with the 5-inch scale. But really, I wasn't expecting this at all. He's got hinges on his shoulders. And that's not just Homer. That's Bart and Chief Wiggum as well. So not that Homer would be doing jumping jacks, but if you want to be excited that he got himself the last donut, you can bring those arms up quite high. Obviously, you can rotate them all the way around as well. The figure does have no swivel in the hands. And again, he's got, if I just get his arm down, he's got no swivel in the waist. And again, when it comes to his bending, he only bends to about that far. Because of his big beer belly, you can't get a full bend on Homer. But eventually, I'm sure down the road, if they do release the Simpsons family car, Homer's going to be sitting inside that. So that's Homer, looking good. By the way, he does also have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. Looking at Bart, which we've already kind of looked at a little bit. I'm going to just move that off to the side. Again, there's another variation of Bart that I've seen where he's got one eye closed and he comes included with a slingshot. This one is just a regular one that comes included with a skateboard, and I'm sure that Jakks down the road could release this guy in a couple of variations. Bart at one point was mixing and matching his colors of t-shirts, so maybe they could release him down the road with a red shirt, maybe like a green shirt or a blue shirt. Head sculpt, again, look, for Bart being 2.5 inches. I mean, again, Homer was the one that is 2.5 inches in size. Bart's obviously going to be a little bit shorter than that. But for what detail they managed to pack into this figure, I'm really, really surprised and really impressed. You know, again, like you've got the very little in the way of paint. I mean, obviously they would have only just had to paint the pupils. The shirt's probably been painted as well. He has what I would have initially thought is a swivel in his waist, but none of these figures sadly have that. But again, like Bart does have a swivel in the head. Again, you bring the arms out, which is the most surprising thing about this line so far is the fact that they have this right here. Again, nothing in the arms. I mean, when you rotate the arm, you're essentially rotating as well the shoulders. And again, when you bend the legs, you're basically bending them at the exact same time. The only thing I would have liked if maybe Bart could have had better gripping hands, so if you wanted to have him holding the skateboard. I mean, sometimes, the first couple of times I took this guy out of the packaging, I was doing this, I was thinking, hey, wow, he holds his skateboard. But then every time after that, every time I keep trying to get him to hold the skateboard, his hands are just way too small. But I like to look at Bart. The only thing that kind of concerns me about this line is with, Jakks Pacific essentially taking the licensing and splitting up the middle and then branching off. So again, you've got the 2.5 inch figures, and then you got the 5-inch figures. I don't feel like they're going to dedicate as much of their patience, the time, and certainly the resources and materials to produce every single character for every wave. So like, for example, I don't think, maybe they're going to probably put more dedication to stocking every character in that 5-inch scale. Maybe we're not going to be getting as much love for the 2.5-inch scale figures. That's my only worry. I mean, obviously, when you've got one company like Playmates, when Playmates was doing The Simpsons, they had one size class, so it was very easy for them to say, okay, we're going to release every single character we can ever think of. I don't know if Jakks is planning to do the exact same thing for a 2.5-inch and a 5-inch and have them kind of working together. Because that's, first of all, going to be stocking a lot of the shelf space as well. The final figure that I did pick up, and again, like $10 a piece, oh boy, is a Chief Wiggum. And Chief Wiggum does have the baton on the side. Unfortunately, the baton is not removable. I kind of wish that this could have detached. I'm sure with a little bit of pressure and pulling, I could probably pull this right off and I'd never be able to get it back in place. He does also have a gun on the one side. The gun is non-removable. He's also got himself what seems to be handcuffs, but again, nothing is removable in the figure. Head sculpt looks good on this guy. I mean, like the coloring for the guy, as a whole, he's got the little patches there on the sides of his shoulders, the little badge there on the front. He's even got that little tie clip. Attention to detail on these figures have been quite very impressive. Really, again, going in there is just expecting this to be kind of the equivalent of what you would see in a dollar store. I was really, again, surprised to see how good these figures turned out for the size that they actually are. Again, for like Wiggum, his head's going to be working the exact same way. He's just got a much larger head to contend with, but the head's going to rotate the exact same way as Homer and Bart. And again, you stick out the hinges in the shoulders. They rotate all the way around. No waist swivel, a bit of a bummer. But again, when you bend the legs, he has the hardest time to bend because he's got the biggest belly to deal with. But again, he does have a little bit of bend there as well. Wish he could have come included with accessories, but at the end of the day, again, really nice looking figures. Still want to get my hands on Ned Flanders and Lisa. I think those were two listed on Walmart.ca. And again, the asking price for the 2.5-inch figures are $7, at least here in Canada, $7.97. A little on the higher side, especially for the size class. I really kind of wish that these characters could have been like the $4.99, about $5 even price for what they could have been for the sizes. But obviously, with inflation and everything going around right now, the 5-inch figures are obviously going to be a little bit bigger, obviously, and they're going to be more expensive in price. But unlike these ones, they're at least going to come included with accessories. Depending on, of course, what choice you have when it comes to collecting Simpsons figures. Now we have two choices. Unlike before, where we would have had one size class from the two figure companies that I can think of, at least, Playmates and Super 7, Jakks at least now approaches Simpsons with two sizes. So if you like the smaller size, where hopefully we can get much more of the Simpsons characters and civilians of Springfield, if we get like little cars, we get the dioramas and stuff like that, that's all going to cater to this size, I would imagine. We're probably not going to be getting as much, though, with the 5-inch scale figures. But the trade-off, though, is that the 5-inch are going to have a lot more posability and a lot more accessories. Generally, when you're dealing with figures under 3 inches, poor paint applications and inferior sculpts go with the territory. And yet, though, neither one of those boxes get checked with the new Jakks Pacific 2.5-inch Simpsons figures. I mean, with at least the 3 that I picked up, I still got to pick up Ned Flanders, Lisa, and that random Bart that has, for reasons unknown, one winking eye. When eventually I do pick up those, I mean, I think the details on these are just as good as what we got, first of all, with Playmates. I think the head sculpts on these rival the stuff that we got from Playmates and might even be competitive with what we got from Super 7. I know it's a pretty bold statement to make for really 3 figures in on what would only be the first wave. But honestly, though, I mean, Super 7, one thing that can be said for them is that they released premium collectibles. And obviously with that goes premium collectible prices. $88 to $100 without a word of a lie here in Canada. They included as well all the episode-specific accessories you could think of. But at the end of it, they were still $80 to $100. If what Jakks Pacific is going to be doing with their 5-inch scale is anything to what they've done with half that scale, I think the Simpsons line is going to be in good hands. Now, again, like the big problem with these is obviously they're going to be smaller, first of all, in size, and they don't have anywhere near the levels of accessories or articulation for that matter. I mean, they're a little bit more limited in the lower half of their bodies. I mean, obviously, when you're bending one leg, you're going to be bending both. But obviously, if you're also going to be getting down the road, and I'm hoping that Jakks is planning to do like the Simpsons family car, for example, bending both the legs at the same time is not a deal breaker at all. The fact that they have hinges in their shoulders, first of all, is one of the things I wasn't expecting at all. And yes, even though Bart is the only one that really has an accessory, at least for right now, until eventually I get my hands on Lisa, you know, I kind of wish that, yes, the 2.5-inch figures could have come included with other things other than themselves. But from a head sculpt and the rest of the way that the bodies were constructed, I'm very, very pleasantly surprised and pleased with what we've gotten from Jakks so far. The only thing I would certainly say, though, is distribution is an issue, at least for right now. Canadian collectors, and I can only really speak for the Canadian collector behind the camera, I had a hard time even finding these in stores. As of right now, at the time of shooting this video, I have checked 3 Walmart stores, and they've had next to nothing. They have had nothing. So either I can order these online through places like eBay and pay through the nose to get my hands on them. Some sites have shown listings of them, like Entertainment Earth has listings of the first wave. But they seem to be doing some strange thing where you have to buy a case of 12 of them. Well, I don't really need a case of 12. I only really need as the first set of 5. The case, I think, was going for around $55, which again is not a bad price at all. But I hope the availability of these. This is the only thing that's going to hold back this line. The availability of how easy it is for collectors to get their hands on them and how loyal they're going to be to both size classes. If you're going to be releasing, let's say 25 different Simpsons characters of the 5-inch variety, I hope they're also going to be doing the exact same for the smaller scale too. Because you would hate to think that collectors that are going in with slightly smaller display spaces to work with, you'd hate to think they're going to be left in the dark where after a while, Jakks isn't going to focus as much of their effort on the half scale, and they're going to be putting all of their efforts into the 5-inch variety. I hope that we're going to be getting just as many characters in both size classes. Have you guys had the chance to be collecting any of the new Jakks Pacific Simpsons characters? And are you more interested to collect the 2.5-inch size? Or are you all more into collecting the 5-inch variety? Let me know which sizes you guys would be more interested down below in the comment section. If in the meantime you guys did enjoy this video, throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more though, please hit the subscribe, turn on the bell. Come back, please. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.